Hi, this is Gerard Braud, and today we're going to look at the phrase, beware of the Ides of March. March 15th is the Ides of March. The phrase was, of course, made popular by the guy known as Billy Shakes, William Shakespeare. He wrote it for his play Julius Caesar, and in the play a soothsayer comes up to Caesar and warns him of the impending crisis, which would be his death. He says, beware the Ides of March. And sure enough, on March 15th, in the year 44 BC, Caesar was stabbed 23 times by members of the Senate, dying right there in the Senate floor. And of course, his former friend Brutus was one of the conspirators, to which Shakespeare writes that Caesar looked up and said, "Et tu, Brute?" Well, I'm going to ask you, et tu? What are you going to do for the Ides of March? If you're in the field of communications, if you're in emergency response, if you're in risk management, if you're a CEO, if you're a member of a crisis management team, the Ides of March is a perfect day to conduct a vulnerability assessment. A vulnerability assessment is the first step in building a crisis communications plan that your communications team will eventually use to communicate with the media, with employees, and with all of your other key stakeholders. How do you go about doing this? It's as simple as imagining everything that could go wrong. Now, I say it's simple, but it takes quite a process to talk to enough people within your institution to ask them what might actually constitute a crisis. And a crisis is anything that could destroy the reputation and profit, not just reputation, but profit and viability of your company. You need to include both those sudden crises, such as a natural disaster, a shooting, a fire, an explosion, as well as the sudden crisis, those things like executive misbehavior, the Penn State University scandal with the kids allegedly being abused by one of the former coaches. That's a perfect example of a smoldering crisis that eventually reached a flashpoint and had horrific consequences financially and reputation-wise for that institution. If you need help putting together a vulnerability assessment and organizing your people to come together to discuss these vulnerabilities, give me a call. Now, once you're going to complete this vulnerability assessment, that gives you a clear path of what you need to write for your crisis communications plan. I like to have pre-written templates. So if I identify 95 things that could go wrong during my vulnerability assessment, I'm actually going to have an addendum in the plan with 95 documents that detail facts about every one of those crises. On the day of the crisis, I'll fill in a few blanks on that template, but in very short order, in less than an hour, I'm ready to take that document that I've quickly modified and send it out to the media, send it out to employees and all of my other key stakeholders. The time to do that is on a clear, sunny day, not in the middle of the crisis. You don't want to be looking at a blank Word document with 10 people looking over your shoulder and all of them telling you what to put down on a piece of paper. And then when you finally write it in the heat of this battle, you take it to the executive team and they try to wordsmith it and change everything that you've written. So the Ides of March is a perfect time for you to plan a vulnerability assessment. It's the first step in writing your crisis communications plan. This is Gerard Braud.